I was going to tell you something else, and I can't remember now what it was. Because my brain is not working properly.
It's all ice right now.
We'll see how it goes. I may not do very well.
When I came down, they were great. I mean, temperatures dropping.
It's going to be 10 this year.
We'd like to call this evening's meeting of the Peoria City Council to order. Yes. Welcome H. Wayne Wilson and his listening audience at WCBU as well as Cable Channel 22. Madam Clerk, the council mics are open for roll call.
Member Akeson. Councilmember Sear. Here. Councilmember Graham.
Here.
Councilmember Jensen. Here. Councilmember Montalongo. Here. Councilmember Moore. Councilmember Euler.
Here.
Councilmember Riggenbach.
Here.
Councilmember Ruckriegel.
Here.
And Councilmember Turner. You have a quorum present, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'd like to invite everyone to join us and stand for a moment of silent prayer or silent reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. We're also going to ask everyone to keep their thoughts and prayers with Phyllis Markley's family. As we all know, Phyllis was former school board president, accomplished and long-tenured teacher here, very dedicated to the youth in our community, and it's certainly a big loss for our community. So we'll keep the Markley family in our thoughts as well. Looks like we have two proclamations tonight. We'll start with Roberta Kay from the Peoria Public Library for Peoria Reads. Whereas the Peoria Public Library, Commonplace, and various community partners have worked together since 2001 to annually present Peoria Reads, a one city, one book initiative to promote community participation in reading. And whereas Peoria Reads, part of the National Endowment for the Arts Big Read program, encourages Peorians to read the same significant book at the same time in order to bring our diverse community together in ways to promote better understanding of ourselves and our own humanity. And whereas participating in Peoria Reads will encourage reading, increase opportunities for discussion between people of all ages, and deepen readers' appreciation for books dealing with important issues. And whereas Can't We Talk About Something More Pleasant by Roz Chast has been chosen as the 2019 Peoria Reads selection. Now therefore I, Jim Ardis, Mayor of the City of Peoria, encourage all residents to participate and do hereby recognize and proclaim spring of 2019 as the season of Peoria Reads. We have Roberta Kay from the Peoria Public Library and Pam Rumba from Commonplace, who are going to give us a little bit more information. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Peoria City Council, for
presenting this proclamation for us. I'm Roberta Koszelski. I'm the Deputy Director of Peoria Public Library, and we are in our 18th year of the annual Peoria Reads program. This is a One City, One Book project where we try to convince everyone in Peoria to read the same book and talk about it and go to companion programs about the themes and topics in the book. So, as the mayor said, this year's book is Can't We Talk About Something More Pleasant by Roz Chast. Roz Chast is a cartoonist, longtime award-winning cartoonist for the New Yorker magazine, and she has written this graphic memoir about the last few years of the lives of her parents. One developed dementia and the other developed physical issues. So it's the story of moving them out of their apartment, moving them to assisted living, and going through the highs and lows of the last few years of their lives. It's funny and compassionate, and it will provoke a lot of discussion. Copies of this book, if you are a mayor or a city council person in Peoria, you've just gotten a copy of the book tonight. If you are anyone else, you can come to any of our Peoria Public Library locations starting later this week and pick up your own free copy of the book, or you can check a copy of the book out. With me tonight, well, these copies came to us because we got a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts for this program. I regret to say that Pam Rumba, the Executive Director of Commonplace, is not with us tonight, but another one of our partners, Methodist College, is represented by our Peoria Reads Committee member, Colleen Karn, and she will tell you just a little bit about some of the programs that we're offering. All the programs will be on the peoriareads.org website, again, later this week. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Colleen Karn. I'm Assistant Professor of English and Humanities at Methodist College, and Methodist College is a very proud partner of Peoria Reads and the Peoria Public Library. The Peoria Reads has a lot of events to offer the community in the spring of 2019. Many of them will be book talks, but there are events beyond book talks. We're going to be kicking off our season with our kickoff event with Illinois songwriter and folklorist Chris Valillo. He's created a musical program that reflects the touching themes in this book, Life Changes, End-of-Life Events. We're also going to be having Professor Marjorie Getz, who is a professor of psychology at Methodist College, who specializes in gerontology, being a keynote speaker at Methodist College on March 3rd. And following that, we're going to be having something very interesting called a Death Cafe, which is a social gathering to try to make talking about death more normalized. Also, Methodist College will be holding an end-of-life symposium in which we'll be having a panel of speakers, but also we'll be having specialists in the areas of end-of-life events such as funeral planning, financial planning, legal planning, and hospice care. We're going to be finishing up our season. There's a lot of other things going on, but we're going to be finishing it up with what's called our Baby Boomers Ball, and we'll be wrapping it up on April 13th, and there'll be live music from the 60s and 70s, so make sure that you come out and wear something fun. Thank you.
Next, we have the Peoria Playhouse and Hopscotch event. Councilman Euler is going to join me for this one, I believe. Thank you. Whereas the Peoria Playhouse Children's Museum provides children with the tools and inspiration they need to be explorers and creators of the world. And whereas this gem on the historic East Bluff hosts over 75,000 people a year, and due to the Explorer program, which offers reduced price admission and memberships, all families can access the Playhouse. And whereas the Playhouse focuses on programming for children 10 years old and younger, with a vast array of offerings, including a variety of classes, camps, and maker workshops. And whereas every summer children get the opportunity to learn from a working artist when the porch at the Playhouse is transformed through works of art created by visitors and the artist in residence. And whereas adults get the opportunity to play and support the organization at the annual Hopscotch event held on Thursday, January 24th from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Peoria Playhouse Children's Museum. And whereas during this adults-only event, 8 vendors will be placed at different stations throughout the museum and will share local beers and whiskey-based cocktails, hops, and scotch. Proceeds from the event will support the Maker Space and monthly Maker Workshops, which foster innovation and problem-solving skills. Now, therefore, I, Jim Ardis, Mayor of the City of Peoria, do hereby recognize the impact of the Peoria Playhouse and Children's Museum in Peoria. We have Rebecca Schulman-Hertz, the director of the Playhouse, is going to give us a few more details, but first, Councilmember Euler has a few words.
Thank you. One of the community's most important and arguably the most challenging endeavors is raising its children. And we talk about this a lot around the council and the impact that decisions that we make have on our community, and how do we have a bigger and better impact on raising children in our community. And whether you're young in age or young at heart, I encourage you to check out the things that are going on at Peoria Playhouse Children's Museum. They do a really impressive job, whether it's educating youngsters on things that will help them at an early age to helping them develop a career path for later on in life. They've really done some important work there and continue to do things, and fundraisers like Hopscotch on Thursday allow them to continue that mission, and I am proud to be one of the sponsors of that event. So thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you so much, Councilman Euler and Mayor Ardis. I am Rebecca Herz. I'm the director of the Peoria Playhouse Children's Museum, and I just wanted to reiterate that our mission is to help kids become explorers and creators of the world. And here at the City Council, your work, which is so challenging, is really adapting and preparing for tomorrow, and how do we make changes to accommodate the future. And that's exactly what we want to train kids to be able to do at the Playhouse. We are hoping to foster their ability to be innovators and leaders and creators, and help transform the city and our community tomorrow, because they will grow up to be here tomorrow. So that is what we do, and we are so grateful for the support of the city and all of the citizens of Peoria. And we invite you to Hopscotch, which is an incredibly fun event. It is this Thursday, and attending Hopscotch is a wonderful way to support the Peoria Playhouse Children's Museum. Thank you.
Councilmember Graeb.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes of the Joint City Council and Town Board meeting held on the 8th of January of 2019 as printed.
Seconded by Councilmember Turner. Any corrections or changes to the minutes? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. That motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
The first item is a public hearing, 19-018, regarding the proposed annexation of a property having the address of 9505 North Illinois Route 91.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilmember Euler, seconded by Councilmember Ruckriegel, to open the public hearing. Seeing no objections, please cast your ballots. That motion passes unanimously. So this is first call for anyone who would like to address the City Council regarding the proposed annexation of property having the address of 9505 North Illinois Route 91. First call. Second call, anyone who would like to address the Council, public hearing regarding the annexation of 9505 North Route 91. Third and final call. Public hearing regarding the proposed annexation of a property having the address of 9505 North Illinois Route 91. Seeing none, we have a motion to close the public hearing by Councilman Euler, seconded by Councilmember Ruckriegel. Please cast your ballots. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
We're at the consent agenda. 19-019 is a request to approve the grants to Commonplace and Tri-County Urban League in the total amount of $33,963 from HUD CDBG funds. 19-020, it has three parts. A is a request to approve a 3-year contract with the cleaning source in the not to exceed amount of $245,254 for janitorial services to buildings group 3 and 4. B is to approve a 3-year contract with Lindsay's Dependable Cleaning Service in the not to exceed amount of $49,958 for another group of city buildings. And C is to approve a 3-year contract with Ludy's Cleaning Services in the not to exceed amount of $50,250 for the third group. 19-021 is a request to approve and authorize the execution of a 3-year contract with Fire Recovery USA to provide billing and collection of fire department non-emergency medical services, the cost of which would be determined by the recovery rate. 19-020 is a request to concur with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff for the following. A is to approve a resolution approving the consolidated initial and amended restated annexation agreement for property generally located on Illinois Route 91. And then B is to adopt an ordinance annexing property at that same location. C is to adopt an ordinance rezoning the property from a Class R3 single-family residential district and an R6 multifamily residential district to a Class R6 multifamily residential district and a Class C1 general commercial district, and this is the property for the property on west of Route 91 also. And there is a replacement ordinance for this item, which is on your desk in yellow. D is to approve a resolution approving the preliminary plat for Bhavani subdivision. 19-023 is a request to approve a resolution supporting local public radio station WCBU. 19-024 is a request to concur with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to A, adopt an ordinance rezoning property located at the foot of Morton Street, and B is to rescind the multifamily plan adopted by Ordinance 17264 for the property located at the foot of Morton Street. 19-025 is a request to concur with the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance rezoning property from a Class CG general commercial district to a Class B1 downtown commercial district for property located at 701 Main Street. 19-021 is a request from the police chief and the city manager to approve the following. Adopt an ordinance amending the City of Peoria 2019 revised budget relating to the capital fund to recognize the receipt of the Edward Byrne Memorial JAG grant and the corresponding expenditures in the amount of $63,633, and that item requires a supermajority vote. B is to approve a sole source purchase of 20 ballistic body armor vests for the Peoria Police Department, a special response team for duty use in the amount of $36,954.21. 19-027 is a request to approve the site application for a Class B restaurant 50% food liquor license with the retail sale of alcohol at International Cafe, DBA Adams Street Cafe 107 Southwest Adams, contingent upon compliance with all building code requirements with a recommendation from the Liquor Commission to approve. 19-028 is an appointment by Mayor Artis to the Transportation Commission with a request to concur of Brandon Lott. 19-029 is an appointment by Mayor Artis to the Advisory Commission on Human Resources with a request to concur of Lisa Fuller. 19-030 is an appointment by Mayor Artis to the Advisory Commission on Human Resources with a request to concur of Catherine Cross. 19-031 is an appointment by Mayor Artis to the Advisory Committee on Police and Community Relations with a request to concur of Shalandra Birch. 19-032 are financial statements from the Greater Peoria Mass Transit District, including independent audit reports for years ended June 30th, 2018 and 2017, and that is on file in the City Clerk's office for your review, and that is a request to receive and file that item. And 19-033 is a report from the City Treasurer, Patrick Nichtine, for the month of December 2018 with a request to receive and file, and there is a yellow handout on your desk that changes. It's a revision on page 8. The fund transfers, the correct amount is $2,723,301.16 rather than a $20 million item. So if that completes your consent agenda.
Thank you. Items to remove from consent this evening. Councilmember Riggenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 19-023.
023. Councilmember Euler.
19-020.
020. Councilmember Jensen.
19-021.
021. Okay. Any other items to remove from consent? Seeing none, we'll move to a motion to approve the remaining items. Councilman Riggenbach, seconded Councilman Euler. Councilman Sear.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a point of order for myself. I need to, Madam Clerk, I'll need to abstain on item for business reason, for item number 19-022. Okay. Thank you.
Business relationship 022. 022. Okay. So noted. So we have a motion and a second and an abstention on 022. Please cast your ballots. The motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
Item 19-020 is, this is the 3 contracts for cleaning service for different city buildings.
That was Councilmember Euler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move to defer to the first meeting in February.
Seconded, Councilmember Jensen. Discussion on the deferral. Seeing none, please cast your ballots. The motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
19-021 is the 3-year contract with the Fire Recovery USA.
Thank you. That was Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I pulled this because I had some questions from citizens on this just because it wasn't clear. I think I know what it is because we've been talking about it for over a year, what the non-emergency medical services are. So I was wondering if the fire chief can clarify what services we will be billing and who we will be billing for the public to understand.
Stuff, isn't it? Sorry about that. In your handout that I don't know if you guys are all given the handout of the billing services. The non-emergent billing services are basically automobile accidents of different types, auto extrications. You know, we will bill for some water services that we do, boat tows and stuff like that. The idea or the main purpose behind this is that You know, anybody involved in these types of acts and stuff will receive a bill. If you are a citizen of the city of Peoria, it's a no balance bill. So your insurance will be billed. If your insurance doesn't cover this type of thing and you are a city resident only, you won't receive a bill personally for it.
So to clarify, the city's just going to be issuing the bills or the charges to insurance companies of citizens?
Citizens, correct. Anybody outside of the city that uses our services for these, you know, certain things like, you know, the auto accidents and those types of things. Car fires is another one in there. Anybody outside of the city will be billed independently to where inside the city it'll be, like I said, it'll be a zero balance billing to where nobody individually will be billed.
Okay, and it, for clarification, then this won't cover non-medical or non-emergency services such as going to someone's house to help somebody who fell?
Correct. Yes, none of that's in here. You know, that we would consider to be an EMS call.
Okay.
You know, we have no EMS billing in this service at the moment, and we have no intention of, you know, the citizens of Peoria at this time to do any type of that type of billing.
Okay, thank you. With that, I move to approve.
Okay, thank you. Motion to approve, seconded. Councilman Greb. Mr. Manager.
The only thing I was just going to point out is this was the revenue that we had discussed as part of the budget process. So,
okay. Thank you very much. Please cast your ballots. That motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
Yes, and we will show that 19-022 that Councilmember Sear abstained due to business reasons. 19-023 is the request to approve a resolution supporting local public radio station WCBU.
Thank you. Councilmember Regenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is probably one of those things that really deserves to be on consent without comment, because it's one of those things that I'm sure we'll have an 11-0 vote this evening. But I think seeing Mr. H. Wayne Wilson sitting in the background, that I would be remiss if we didn't just recognize the significance that WCBU plays in our community. I think we all appreciate the programming at so many levels, and everybody appreciates it a little bit differently, of course. But I think that after our last council meeting, the news came out pretty quickly about the decision to stay on campus in the city. So I think this is just a win for all of us, and just thank all of my colleagues for expressing their support. And I think this is a good thing for our community. Thank you. Move for the approval.
Okay, motion to approve, seconded. Councilman Turner. Further discussion on this? Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm pleased that the entire council is enthusiastically supporting this, and that I brought this forward at the last meeting. It is very important to keep public radio in Peoria and to keep at least WCBU coverage of local things, as well as staff here and a studio. I would like to point out, because I've attended the advisory board meeting the day after our meeting, and after that have asked the city manager if we could add to the agenda a report from Bradley on an update on what their negotiations are with WGLT and what their intentions are. They couldn't be here at the meeting today. Two people that would appear had other commitments. One is out of town. So I believe the plan is that they'll be here at our next meeting to give us an update, because I don't think there's a final plan yet, but they were going to update us on what their plans are to date. I see the city manager shaking his head yes. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other lights, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your ballots. The motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
We're at regular business. 19-017 is a request to adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 18 of the Code of the City of Peoria regarding the operation of video gaming terminals.
Councilman Regenbach.
Move for the approval.
Motion to approve, seconded by Councilmember Turner. Mr. Corporation Counsel, did you just want a brief on this one?
The only changes that were made listening to the feedback from council at the last meeting There was no support for increasing the establishment fees from 500 to 1,000 machine. So this is remaining at $500 machine, as was the prior charge and the prior fee. The only changes are essentially that we are establishing an operator's fee of $1,000 per machine that are basically run against the gaming companies that provide these terminals, and also we've also put in a provision whereby similar restaurants or bars that have been established in the city and are in compliance with the ordinance can open a second operation within the city without the 2-year waiting period. Essentially, that's the major changes in the new ordinance.
Okay. Discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. Okay, it's not showing on here.
Wait,
Councilwoman Jensen.
Thank you. I have a question about why the recommendation is to get rid of the 2-year waiting period.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, can you? Why are we recommending getting rid of the 2-year waiting period?
Because I think one of the unintended consequences of our ordinance that we didn't envision at the time was that if we have a good business operation and they wanted to expand, of course, that would give the city more revenue and would help the economy, as long as they were in compliance and have been in business for 2 years. Then the thought was, in an effort to expand business and improve the economy, that we would allow them to do that. So it was just a spur business. And because the previous ordinance, it actually disincentivized current restaurants from opening another operation that was compliant with the ordinance. So the thought was that was an unintended consequence.
And then can you explain, just for the audience, because we're not increasing the fee for the owners, can you explain the difference between an owner and a terminal operator? Because I don't know if people understand that.
We talked about at the last council meeting raising the fee for a licensee per machine, a licensee being a bar or a restaurant that has video gaming terminals in it. There was an idea to increase those fees. That fee, the increase was not supported by the council. So therefore, we only have $1,000 per machine on the operators. Operators are the individuals that supply or provide, who actually own the video terminals. The establishment, the bar, the restaurants, they merely lease them.
That's their business, is they own and maintain video gaming as well as other amusement machines.
Yes.
And some of them are local and some of them aren't. Is that correct? But they're not like small tavern owners?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
The current ordinance, there was no fee for the big. Right. Yeah, so the current ordinance we have has no fee towards those, the machine owners. And this fee is for the owners, not the bar restaurant operators. I had Councilmember Akeson next.
Thank you. I would just like to amplify my initial reaction to video gaming. I'm not in favor of it. I think if everyone read Sunday's paper, it's clear now that the state of Illinois dramatically miscalculated the financial benefits, and now we have to figure out what the social costs are. The state of Illinois now can boast more gaming operations than any other state outside of the state of Nevada. And you know, again, the article and the people that did the analysis, you know, showed that it seems as if policymakers in Illinois are really bad at math. we have an unfunded pension liability that is because of, calculations that predicted we'd be able to afford, the costs associated with pension fees, and now we're strapped with huge bond debt in the state of Illinois related to the gaming revenues that never ever panned out. I'm against this. I think it's really bad social costs. And to quote the article, it's only the most desperate cities, the poorest cities, that endorse having these gaming operations. So I don't get the correlation why anybody would be, in favor of this, but, for whatever reason. But beyond that, I would like to learn more from the Corporation Council or maybe from the city manager. How did you determine that there was not an appetite on the council to raise the fee? Because I don't recall us taking a vote.
Well, simply there was Councilmember Jensen, and I believe several council members spoke at the last council meeting that indicated that they did not wish to raise that fee. I believe it was Councilman Sear as well, and there was no contrary opinion expressed. And as you know, that's sort of the problem that we face. If there's no clear direction, you have to assume direction in light of the fact that there was no opposition person who spoke up. So that is how I made that determination.
Okay, well, since I haven't reviewed the audio from the meeting where we discussed this, your recollection and my recollection are not compatible, but regardless, I'm voting no.
Councilmember Riggenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Councilwoman Akeson, because after addressing our friends at the Journal-Star about some things that I felt were misreported previously, I think it's only fair that we point out this article in Sunday's paper was very well written and has some very telling statistics about this. The headline is How Illinois Bet on Video Gambling and Lost. And Councilwoman Akeson just highlighted many of those things. And I think one of the other points that I would like to bring up is this very license that we're proposing tonight was brought up in this article as something that the state totally missed out on, and that if their projections would have taken the analysis a little deeper, they probably would have done it, but they let the lobbyists from the gaming industry help write the legislation, and hence we're in the situation we are today. So I think this proposal before us tonight is making the best of a situation that is unfortunate. Councilwoman, I think if you listen to the audio, I would have been on record of saying raise the fee on that. But I think this is probably a good compromise, and hopefully we'll be able to get this accomplished tonight so that we won't be hurting the local bar and restaurant owners. It'll be those bad out-of-state guys. So, no, but in all seriousness, I think this is a logical extension of addressing some of the issues that we read about and that we've all been experiencing here. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no further lights, we have a motion in a second. Please cast your ballots. Councilman Recreal. I'm not showing it. Thank you. That's okay. That motion passes with 7 ayes and 3 noes. Voting no, Council members Akeson, Jensen, and Recreal. Madam Clerk.
We're at unfinished business.
Any unfinished business to come before the council tonight? Unfinished. Councilman Riggenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the residents of the East Bluff and South Side know, the residential housing programs that are part of the TIFs is something that has been unfinished for some time, but we do have a signed contract with the Farnsworth Group, and those programs will be up and running this year. I know Councilwoman Moore is scheduling a meeting on the South Side, And we are having they had one scheduled for Saturday, but ironically the weather prevented it. So our East Bluff meeting will be the East Bluff Build It Up group is hosting the representatives from Farnsworth Group at Glen Oak Christian Church at 4 p.m. on this coming Thursday. So we just want those folks who have been waiting for the release of this. We've been taking pre-applications through the winter months, but it is going to be officially turned over to Farnsworth Group to implement the program. So good news for those homeowners. Thank you.
Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to talk for a minute about the issue of the change in the recycling pickup. I thank Mr. Urick for providing us a report back, as I requested at the last meeting on Friday. But according to his report back, so far there's only been exceptions made for 287 locations out of the 2,400 properties that have been, who have alley pickup. I am concerned about it, and if we're not going to push to exempt further properties, because every day I get calls from people. You know, I walk in those neighborhoods, I live in one of those neighborhoods, and people don't have driveways, a lot of them. There's no way for them to get their garbage can from the back of the garage in the alley without a driveway. They'll have to lug it through the snow. And I honestly don't think, I know that we're being told that was in the agreement that we approved, but I went back through all the material that we had. When you presented the proposal to us in April, on April 17th, I went back and looked at the council item as well as the PowerPoint presentation that you sent to us, and in it, you outlined all the changes of PDC's proposal related to recycling and waste, and nothing's mentioned that there would be a change from alley recycling to curbside recycling. I went through the term sheet of the contract offer, which is what we actually approved on that night, was for staff to enter into the contract with PDC based on that contract execution offer, and there's nothing mentioned that there was going to be this huge change for all these properties that that have pickup on their alleys. You know, part of the purpose of our entire contract, or one of the priorities for a lot of us on the council, and which I started bringing up, I think 4 years ago, before we adopted this contract, is that the new contract needed to include increased recycling. And I think this change is discouraging recycling. I've had countless people tell me if there isn't an exemption made, if it's not changed, even though they've been recyclers for years, they're not going to recycle anymore because they can't lug their garbage can, whether it's, you know, because they have no driveway, they're on a steep incline. So I'm hoping that we're going to continue to look at this. I know you provided us with the number for property owners to call PDC to have it looked at. But I would like further work on this, and I don't think I'm the only one on the council who feels this way.
Mr. Manager?
Yes, in the report that I sent to council last week, that it did outline the criteria that the city staff has been working with PDC on with regards to the alley collection of recyclables and curbside collection. And if there's that, you know, the criteria laid out that if there was difficulty with getting access to the curb, if there was more than 3 steps that would need to be taken to move the recycling cart down those steps, that PDC will review that on a case-by-case basis, and then we encourage people to call their number, which is 674-5176, option 1, to call PDC and to have them come review that with you. And I think that's the way that people can get in the queue. I know that there are some concerns about it. We're continuing to talk with PDC right now, and we'll continue to. You know, I plan on going to the West Bluff Council on Thursday night to talk with them about that as well. So, you know, I think we will certainly look and have conversation with them and see if there's any other alternatives that we can come up with.
I appreciate that. One other thing, I I feel as if this should have come to the city council. I mean, there is that clause in the contract, 4.1, it says all recyclable materials will be collected at the curb, but the next sentence says, in locations where alley service is currently provided, changes in service location must be approved by the city. So the way, I mean, that's worded in the contract, I feel like, and as a municipal attorney, that this leaves enough wiggle room in there if we're going to fight PDC on it, that they should be continuing alley service to those properties that were already getting it. I mean, I don't want to push that far. I hope we can work this out amongst ourselves, but I don't think that's what we agreed to.
Corporation Counsel.
To respond to that, Councilman Jensen, I understand your opinion. I don't believe, and it's been my opinion that this is a council decision. In my view, it's a manager decision. But I respect your opinion as a municipal attorney. I just disagree with it.
Really, I understand you're saying that approval by the city, the way you've interpreted it, that means it can be approved by city staff rather than the city council or the city manager. And that's not the part I'm disputing. I'm disputing the way that it's written with that sentence talking about locations where alley service is currently provided, changes in service location must be approved by the city. That can be read to mean that people that had alley service, any change like to curbside has to be approved by the city. So I guess, are you telling me that the city has approved changing all those locations?
Yes.
And we've done that through the city manager's approval?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Graham.
Well, the council cannot always be prescient, as has been the case in our past, video gaming, for example. But when we were so eager to approve this contract, I indicated there were many details that needed to be worked out. And District 2 is disproportionately impacted by this. It's not the only district impacted, but we have a lot of alleys, a lot of senior citizens, a lot of obstacles, a lot of cars on the streets. I don't even know why PDC would not want to be more than willing to reappraise. However, there's a lesson for all of us. And sometimes one is lonely when one votes no, but that's okay. I voted no because we didn't have the details in place on this. Issues just like this. So now we're kind of at their mercy. And after y'all voted 10 green lights, 1 red light, I went up to the city manager and I went up to the corporation council and I said, you've just had your legs cut out from underneath you as you go back to try to work out some of these details. We have no leverage anymore. So I'm hopeful that PDC, as a wonderful corporate citizen, will help us on this and will rise to the occasion. And I also want to thank the city manager, because he didn't vote on this. We did, for coming to the West Bluff Council and continuing to work with the PDC so that the matter can be resolved. The last thing we want to see, and let's give the council credit, we wanted more opportunities to recycle for our citizens. That's what our citizens asked us for. We had hearings to ask our citizens what they would like to see with this largest single contract the city of Peoria awards. It's a 10-year contract, about $7 million a year. What do you want? And they wanted more recycling. Well, I think Councilor Jensen's right. Maybe a lot of people may choose not to recycle anymore if they have to haul that thing from the alley to the front. It doesn't really make a lot of sense when otherwise the garbage is being picked up in the alley. So just some thoughts on it. I'm not disparaging PDC, and I'm certainly not disparaging the council, because I'm sure I don't always vote correctly on things, but on your biggest single contract, you have to have everything nailed down. Otherwise, we're in the situation we're in now. And manager, I guess I'm hearing you say you're continuing to work on this, a work in progress. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Sear.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One more challenge for Mr. Manager. In the 5th District, people love to recycle. As of last Friday, we closed one of our recycling center. And one of the challenge we have in the 5th District right now, receiving some calls from people who live in apartment buildings, basically. And my phone went dead here, but basically there was over at least 4 complexes that I've received information from, was over 1,660 apartments that they just don't know how they can recycle anymore since the center's been closed. Do we have, and I don't know, maybe you can answer tonight, but I don't know if you can give us a report or you know the answer how people in an apartment building could recycle.
So the recycling centers in the city were closed. The landlords of both of those properties were upset with the amount of illegal dumping that was going on. There was a lot of garbage, a lot of issues with stuff that wasn't there that should have been properly put in the trash. So I think that for those apartment owners, since they're commercial contracts, they're not part of our residential recycling program, they have 2 options. One, they can look to the county's resource conservation department and identify, go out to their website and look at where there are other locations to drop off recyclables outside of the city of Peoria. I believe there's one in Bartonville, and I believe there's also one in Princeville that they can drop off. But you can go out and you can look at where those locations are on the county's website, or they can contact their landlord and ask them to provide recycling as part of their commercial contract for waste pickup, and that's another option that they have that's available to them.
Is your answer the same then for condo associations?
Condos are covered as part of our program, so most condos should be covered and would have that participation in the residential recycling program offered by the city.
So just as my colleague just said, is there any chances that PDC would agree to add these apartment buildings into our current contract?
I could certainly have a conversation with them, but again, I think that's probably more appropriate that as part of their commercial contract that be added in. They're not going to do it for free, so there's going to be a cost that would be attendant with all of that to do that. So.
Sir.
Okay. I'm seeing no further lights. Madam Clerk.
We're at new business.
New business to come before the council. New business. Councilmember Akeson.
Thank you, Mayor Artis. As many people probably know, a few years ago, the city of Peoria discussed commercial sidewalk snow removal, and eventually we landed on an ordinance that does require commercial property owners to remove the snow from their sidewalks when we have major snowfalls. And after our last snowfall, I went out and surveyed the majority of our commercial corridors, and very few commercial properties actually shoveled the snow from their sidewalks. They did a really great job of shoveling the snow from their parking lots, but the result was people who needed to walk were forced to walk in the street. And I was heartened by my observation of some small businesses. There was one in particular in the 1st District. There were a couple in the 2nd District. And of course, the hospitals in Bradley were good about removing their snow from their sidewalks. But in general, there was little, if hardly any, compliance. And that could be a factor of many things. People, because we've never done it before, we've never required it to this degree, they may not be aware. The Public Works Department did send out postcards, and they were very cleverly done. When they were distributed to the council, I commented that the department did a great job. Call out to Stacy Peterson, who helped with the design, but they really turned out to not be too effective. And then another snowstorm happened, and now tonight it's unclear to me whether the snow is eventually just going to all dissolve or if we're going to have now just more ice. So in the spirit of wanting to do more towards the carrot and less towards the stick, because I know we've got representatives here from Public Works. I don't recall what the penalty is if you don't shovel your sidewalk. Is it $250 as the penalty?
50 to 100.
Oh, it's 50 to 100. Okay, well, so I guess they figured they'll take the expense, but it's complaint driven, so it doesn't mean that we're going to be sending out thousands of notices to businesses. So in the spirit of trying to be more like, to figure out a way to get people to be at least aware of this, I'm announcing the first annual Golden Shovel Award, which will be handed out the second meeting in April. There will be 15 awards, and what I'd like to see is people nominate their neighbors or businesses. I'm going to nominate 2 businesses that I noticed. I'm going to also nominate a neighborhood association that did something very clever, I thought. But I'd like all the council members to try to do what they can to solicit kudo awards, and these the awards are going to be absolutely beautiful. People will be proud to display them, and we're going to announce it at the neighborhood recognition meeting in February, and I know that staff is going to help with other ways we can communicate this, but I really would like to see the city understand that when snowfall happens the way it did just these past weeks, it forces the most vulnerable people in the street, and it's really scary. And I know that for the people that I've stopped and talked to, they have no other choice. They're walking in our streets because our sidewalks are covered in snow. And there are cities across the country that do remove the snow from their sidewalk, either through ordinance and have citizens do it, or through the city doing it themselves. But we're not in a position to do that right now. We just don't have enough money. So it's this expression, big jobs are easily done with many hands participating, and I look forward to it, and I appreciate the mayor's endorsement of this.
I think this was a very good call, Councilwoman Agus, and if you would like to, maybe tell everybody what that homeowners association did to encourage that. They're still the first one, so they're gonna get their name in, but it might help other neighborhoods try to copy that.
Okay, well, luckily for me, this is serendipity. Are you the president? Happens to be in the audience, and maybe we could have him come to the podium and describe what it was, the Uplands neighborhood. So I know you weren't prepared for this, and if you don't want to come up and talk, but I think you really do need, you and your leadership team need to be commended for the way that you handled this, and it's really remarkable.
Okay, nice job. CJ, if you want to, maybe we'll give you a couple minutes before. I see you're on citizens to address, so maybe you can do it 2 for 1. Does that work? Okay. I had Councilman Regenbach next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2 quick announcements.
Councilman, before you do that, and just to follow up on that, I mean, there was, unfortunately, a person that was walking in the road down in Peoria County was killed over the weekend because they were walking out in the middle of Farmington Road because there was nowhere to walk. So we all saw people that were walking in the streets because of this. So to Councilwoman Agason's point, it's very appropriate. Sorry, Councilman Regenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2 quick announcements. We all remember years ago we used to have a neighborhood awards banquet that we would recognize the leaders of our neighborhoods with special recognition. Well, after having a bit of a hiatus, we're going to begin that tradition again with a neighborhood award reception. The first annual will be held on February 21st at the Carver Center from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Community Development and Josiah Williams in particular is accepting applications for the awards. So if there's somebody in your neighborhood that goes above and beyond on an ongoing basis that would be worthy of some recognition, we want to make sure that we do that publicly. So That's February 21st at the Carver Center, 6 p.m., the first annual Neighborhood Awards reception. And that will be rotated through the different districts through the years, so we'll all get our chance to shine and show off our neighborhoods in a special light. The other thing is one of those grassroots efforts that's near and dear to my heart, and it's the PCAF, P-Town Soup, that will be held this Thursday, the 24th, which is a busy day, it appears, in town, but it'll be at Ward Chapel, AME, and if you've never gone to one of these P-Town Soups, I really encourage you to go to that. It really shows the neighborhoods and the folks who are on ground zero doing what they can to make their neighborhoods a safer place, a better place, and they're going to be able to come away with a little cash too. So that starts at 6 o'clock at the Ward Chapel P-Town Soup.
Thank you. I have Councilman Montalongo next.
Thank you, Mayor. Since we were just talking about the snow, yeah, there were quite a few businesses in the commercial areas within my district that that kind of missed that calling of getting the sidewalks clean, and you know, I'd like to encourage them to do that on this next snowfall, or if they haven't done it yet, to please make that effort to get it done. That being said, also, I think we should be taking steps necessary as well, and maybe giving a notice to some of the businesses with Mr. City Manager. I'm not sure who we would send out to give a friendly reminder, and then next time start enforcing our ordinance that we came up with. I really do like the thoughts that Councilwoman Akeson came up with the Golden Shovel Award idea, and I think that will certainly encourage some to take some action. I'd like to share a challenge that I put out to my neighborhood associations. Recently, I sent out a challenge to my neighborhood associations to come up with 3 projects in their neighborhood for the year 2019. Something that they can get their whole neighborhood, all the residents engaged to do something in their neighborhood. You know, I sent them out some ideas here, and I'm sure more can come up. But some of the thoughts that I sent out to them, certainly get engaged in the great neighborhood cleanup. One that, and I gave some details to this, but one that I'm calling Light It Up, something where the neighborhoods can, you know, look at your own doorsteps. Maybe you have a broken light. Maybe it's a fixture that's broken. Maybe it's one of the city lights that are out that needs to be replaced. But certainly we know that lights on at night make a safer neighborhood. I'm having one called Fix It. Fix those broken doors, windows, gutters, downspouts, sidings, sidewalks, driveways, etc. Landscape it, and you know, whether it's with plants, flowers, trees, grass, edging your sidewalks, etc. Or maybe it's fixing that neighborhood sign or getting a neighborhood sign up, or perhaps just an overall just clean up, you know, the things that need to be thrown away in your house and coordinate a neighborhood cleanup that way. I sent this out to all of my neighborhood associations and started to hear back from some of them already. I gave them till March 1st to come up with 3 projects, and that we could work with them. You know, I did talk with the city manager and hear that we got support from our public works once we start to see what these projects look like and once they start coming up with dates. But I started thinking about, you know, what a great impact that would make for all these neighborhoods if you know, certainly everybody getting together and getting to know each other with these big projects going on. If we can coordinate with experts and contractors, they'll perhaps get a lot of things done. It'll make a beautiful neighborhood. It'll make it safer, and get people talking. And I think that's what my overall goal is with getting this started. But I'd also like to, you know, I just started thinking a little bit bigger. What if the entire city was doing this throughout all all 5 districts in Peoria, and what a tremendous impact that we could have with it. So I guess I'd just like to leave it with the district council people to consider this project, and I'd be happy to share with you the email that I sent out to my folks. I'm just calling it the Peoria Project 2019. So with that, if you have any questions, please contact me. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Ruckregel's next.
Thank you, Mayor. Recently, we had some recommendations made to the city police department from the ACLU. Just wondering if for our next meeting, if maybe we could have the chief come and talk a little bit about some of those recommendations. Some of those we may have already enacted. There may be some validity to some, and just the timeline on which some of those might be coming forward. If we can just put that on the next agenda. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a couple things. The first, I mentioned this to the city manager about a week and a half ago after our legislative update, and I'm hoping we can move forward with having Carol Myrna from the Center for Prevention of Abuse come to the City Council and give a report on the human trafficking issue and all of the programs that the center is involved in preventing and combating that issue, because it's become such a serious, big problem in Central Illinois, and they're the primary organization that's dealing with that problem. So if we could have that on the agenda in the next month or so, I think that would be great. The next thing, I just wanted to also make sure that the Bradley WCBU update will be provided, that report by Bradley, at our next meeting. And then last but not least, I just wanted to commend Cy Maroon and all of his snow fighters for the fantastic job they did. Actually, I think the 2 storms we've had since our last council meeting, maybe 3 now. They did such a phenomenal job. I know people had to be patient for some of the non-arterial roads for them to get out there, but I think they did a great job, and I got a number of compliments from constituents through social media and contacting me directly, so thank you for all your work.
Councilman Regenbach.
Thank you for allowing me a second round here. Councilwoman Jensen, very timely mention of human trafficking. I see some of our friends from the Dream Center in the audience, Brian Uhlenhop and Seth Major. And on Saturday, the 26th, the Dream Center is actually having a symposium, Can You See Me?, talking about that very topic. So if you want details on that, go to the Dream Center website, but that's this coming Saturday, a session on that human trafficking in Illinois specifically, and what's happening perhaps even under our own noses. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you both. Seeing no more lights, Madam Clerk.
I have one item of new business. I'm sure that you've noticed a new person sitting behind us tonight. We'd like to welcome Tiffany Kanzler. She is our newest employee. She's not new to the city of Peoria. She worked in the legal department for about 10 years, and then she moved away for a couple of years. And so when we had our vacancy, she applied, and we snapped her up. And very happy to do so. It's working out very well. So you'll be seeing her not only in our city clerk's office, but also subbing for Stephanie every once in a while. So we'd just like to welcome her tonight.
Very good. Welcome back.
Stand up.
Yeah.
Stand up, yes.
Yeah. There we go. Welcome back. Madam Clerk?
We're at citizens' opportunity to address the city council.
We have citizens to address, 5-minute speaking limit, and we just need your name for the record. And Mr. Summers, if you want to go first, and we'll hold the clock if you want to mention what your neighborhood did on the snow shoveling, and then when you go into your citizens, we'll start the clock.
Be happy to do that. Okay, I'm CJ Summers, 1202 North Institute Place, and I'm the president of the Uplands Residential Association, and I'm here speaking on behalf of the Residential Association, but I will talk about the snow removal first. So in our neighborhood, if you're not familiar with it, the sidewalks directly abut the street, and so there's no margin in between there. But we do have on-street parking. But like when the plows come through, the snow from the road all goes up on the sidewalks, and that can make it difficult to clear the snow in the winter, especially when you have a large snowfall. And we also have a lot of people who walk in our neighborhood, a lot of employees of Bradley who walk to work, a lot of kids. There's a lot of kids in our neighborhood. They walk to the school bus or they walk to school, things like that. And as we were looking at ways we could improve our neighborhood, one of the things we noticed was in the winter, everybody had to walk in the street because the sidewalks were largely impassable. You know, even people who wanted to do the right thing and shovel the snow off their walks couldn't do it because a lot of times the snow would be too heavy to move. So we thought about what we could do, and we came up with the idea of if we all pitched in a little bit of money, we could hire a contractor to come out and clear all the sidewalks in the neighborhood for us. At least that was, we thought, you know, maybe it'll be affordable. We didn't know at first. We thought maybe that's a pipe dream. So we went out and gathered some information. We went back and looked at the how much snowfall and how many snow events there had been over the past 4 or 5 winters to come up with kind of a idea of how much shoveling there would have to be. And then we went out and got a quote from a contractor, and then we divided that by how many people we thought would, or how many households we thought would participate. And it ended up being pretty affordable. It was like $20 per household for the whole winter, which is pretty easy. You know, I just got a thing on my door the other day from somebody who wanted to shovel the walk for $10 one time, you know. And so this is $20 to do all of the walks in the, it's not the private area, it's just the public sidewalks, all the public sidewalks in the neighborhood for the whole winter. So we put that into effect last winter, and it worked real well. Everybody was happy with it. We got a lot of support from the city. Former Public Works Director Scott Reese helped us with it, and Cy Maroon. We wanted to try to coordinate it so that we didn't get the walks shoveled and then the plows came through and buried it again. Then we had to shovel it again. So we worked with the city to try to have them come after the plows had gone through so it could all be coordinated. And it's worked out great. We've been real happy with it. This year it's really going to test our ability to forecast how much money we needed to raise because it's been an awful lot of snow. But we also got a lot of support from the neighbors. I would be remiss if I didn't say it. It all worked because of all of the great neighbors in our neighborhood who pitched in to help and gave money towards this, and also the help of one of our neighbors, Pete Mogsig, who did just a great job of doing the fundraising. We couldn't have done it without him. He and his wife made these great signs, kind of like the Burma Shave signs along the street that got people excited about giving money to it, and it was a big success. So happy about that. Okay, so that was impromptu. The real reason I came up here was to talk about the solid waste contract and specifically the recycling pickup in the alleys. At our last residential association meeting, we had quite a bit of discussion about it. And so I just wanted to, and I sent a letter to several of the council members, but I thought it'd be good to just go on record with the Uplands position. So the Uplands position is clear. It's that we request that the council and the city manager do whatever's necessary to ensure that pickup remains in the alley for all solid waste, whether it's garbage or lawn waste or recycling, all of it should remain in the alleys. And we're not looking for exceptions for people who have to go down steps. We want the whole neighborhood. So I just wanted to make that clear because it sounded like the resolution that we're looking at is, well, some people can be accepted. That's not going to be what the neighborhood wants. The neighborhood wants the whole neighborhood to continue to receive pickup of recycling in the alleys just like it's been all along. We've always had recycling pickup in the alley. The alleys are, the neighborhood is designed for the alleys to be the place where all of the pickup is, all of the utilities are, it's all that stuff is in the alleys. That's the way all the houses are oriented towards that so that the garages exit toward the alley, so people who are pushing their cans out of their garage, it goes to the alley. It doesn't go out to the front. It's just, the whole thing is designed for that. So to change it is making a fundamental change in how the neighborhood is designed, and it's going to make everybody have to find a workaround for those things. And so that's not the way we want it to be. It contributes to the quality of life in the neighborhood to have all those things in the back. When you think about it, when you have whatever solid waste you have to pick up, wherever that is, there's always going to be times where, like, animals get into it, or it falls over in the wind and stuff like that. You don't want those kinds of things to happen. You don't want them to happen, period. But when they happen, you don't want it to happen in the front of your house where it's going to make your neighborhood look trashy, and cause a lot of trouble. You want to have that in the back where it's contained. It doesn't mar the look and the aesthetic of the neighborhood. It helps with the beauty of the neighborhood. Also, curbside pickup isn't going to be any more efficient, especially in the uplands. In the uplands, we have 30-foot wide streets, and when you have cars parked on either side of those, because we have a lot of residential parking on the street, those cars can be out as much as 7 feet into the roadway. And so if you take that off of both sides, you're left with about 16 feet in the middle that the truck can go down, and our alleys are 16 feet wide. So I don't see where the benefit is as far as like the sizes of the trucks and some of these excuses we've heard for why they're wanting to change it. It's not going to be any easier for them to pick that up in the street. It's actually going to be harder because in the alley, there aren't any cars on either side. It's very easy to get to the recycling toters to empty them, whereas on the street, you're going to have to be trying to dodge all of the cars that are parked on the side of the street. And yeah, so we would like to, it seems like I had something else I wanted to say about that. I know what I wanted to say. So it sounds like from the discussion that I heard tonight that the city has some say in whether the pickup moves from the alley to the street, and it sounds like it was up to the city manager. Now there may be more to it than what I heard, but if it's just up to the city manager, it seems like as the employee of the council could decide to direct the city manager to say that the pickup needs to remain in the alleys. And if that's what it takes to make this change to ensure that it stays in the alleys, I would request that the city council do that. No offense to the city manager, but I was a little disappointed because he lives in an area that has alleys. He lives in a neighborhood that has alleys. He knows the benefit of alleys. And so it was kind of disappointing that he wouldn't, and maybe he couldn't, so I don't want to be too harsh here, but it was disappointing that it wasn't fought for more either by him or the council or something to, keep our neighborhoods looking good and, do what the neighbors want. Oh, and one more thing. I heard it said that we wanted more frequent recycling and that this was how we had to get it. We asked the citizens, they all wanted more frequent recycling. That's true. However, nobody asked the citizens if they wanted more frequent recycling if it meant moving the recycling to the curbside from the alleys. I think you would have gotten a different answer if you had asked that. Do you want more frequent recycling if we move to the curbside, or do you want it once a month in the alley? I think they would have said, keep it in the alley.
Andres Diaz.
Diaz, 1331 Northeast Perry. I'm here to speak to you tonight about 3 processes within the city and my recent experience. I ask that you listen to these items and consider how you can implement a change in our city, as the lack of action will continue to lead us down a path where city staff violates the law, citizens become disengaged, and we continue on a path where not all residents feel welcome at the table. First, the FOIA process, a process designed for transparency in government. This past week, I filed a FOIA for documents about land that I've previously discussed here on the council floor. When I received back the packet, there was pages missing. I had to go back multiple times to get all of the documents because our community development department does not engage the IT department to ensure transparency as other departments do. This is a problem, and there should be a standard process that all departments follow to be compliant of the law. Second, our land use policy in that process. In some of the documents I received, and I don't know if I received them all, I found that maybe there's a reason the Director of Community Development would not want to share everything as required. You see, a few months ago, I sent everyone on this council an email regarding my perception of being discriminated against in regards to how our city is disposing of lots. I never received a response from anyone in regards to that email, but now I think I may know why. What I learned is the Director Black sent what he calls a response to my email, though he did not give me the courtesy of a copy as I did him. When he did not deny he was discriminating against me, he doubled down and undercut me without chance for a response. He took a 2-hour discussion and a string of emails where we discussed many items and acted as it never happened. He planted seeds that said I had no financing, done no research, and wasn't serious about my idea. He talked about my neighborhood and neighbors not being able to get along and hid behind a 2012 policy that wasn't being followed at all. I don't know what his intent was with the email, but if you didn't know me in my life situations, I could see where someone say, hey, he's out in left field and not to be taken serious. He then followed it with a statement where he said we would go out to bid and Councilwoman Moore would be part of the team, a statement that per my conversation with Councilwoman Moore is not true. Again, I don't know the intent. We're all human, make mistakes, and maybe Director Black made a mistake in his communications. But I can tell you that this has played out, and it saddens me, because Director Black summed it up best in his email, and he doesn't even realize it. He said, quote, Mr. Diaz complained at our meeting that it was unfair if Habitat gets parcels without an open bidding process. He now states that it's unfair he can't get a parcel without an open bidding process. And herein lies the problem. Director Black admits he's not treating everyone equitably, and how dare I question that process. I approached the city about doing development and the rules changed. Why? What's different about me? What did I do to wrong him and be treated differently? What have I done? What I have garnered is the process is that Director Black has too much power and leeway. I urge the council to schedule a land use policy session and implement broader oversight of this process as quickly as possible. And lastly, I want to address an HR process to you, sir, our city manager. I learned that you had an opportunity to diffuse this situation months ago when our chief diversity officer sent you an email telling you about my appearance at the Fair Housing Commission. He laid it out, as I said that day, that I had a feeling of inequity and fairness in dealing with Director Black. Yet you didn't do anything. When I first moved back to the city, we chatted at one of the forums held on the South End when we discussed the city being ranked as one of the worst cities for African Americans. I felt like you wanted change and wanted to help us get off that list. So the fact that you did nothing to reach out to me to investigate and question the situation disappoints me. I believe and hope that you do care, though in this case, with what I know now, I must say you failed. As the city manager, a leader in this city, and as a person, by normalizing behavior that disempowers a resident of this city, it's a failure. You missed an opportunity to diffuse and make a situation right, or at least not fester to the point it has been today. In the future, when someone brings discrimination or the accusation of such to your attention, you must not ignore it. You must address the issues. If not, you play into the narrative that Peoria is a place of two classes, that you must be in the right class to accomplish anything, and those on the outside with innovative or different ideas to help our city prosper should be quiet and take direction from those in power. That's not the Peoria I want to raise my family in. I want the Peoria where we have open dialogue and transparent government, that city staff works with all residents and does not undercut our citizens in private emails, and all parts of this city can prosper. I know we can overcome these issues. Some people here tonight may take this as a rant against the city, but it's not. It's a message that I hope you leave with, that if I didn't care, if I didn't want to help, if I didn't want the best damn city for my family, I wouldn't be here, and I've given up a long time ago. Thank you.
I don't have any more citizens to address. Cards up here, and I just want to put it out there. I see a couple of potential new faces, if there's anybody here that wanted to address the council. And if not, Madam Clerk.
We do not have an executive session, so we would be at adjournment.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn by Councilman Graves, seconded by Councilman Sear. Please cast your ballots. That motion passes unanimously. We'd like to thank H. Wayne Wilson and his listening audience at WCBU as well as Cable Channel 22, and this meeting is adjourned.